PageTunes Red. From the pages of PageTunes magazine, monthly number 3, March 2024. Story and artwork by Michael Zigerlig.
Cult of the Wicker Man. The summer sun beat down upon the winding road as the yellow school bus rumbled its way towards the town of Pasquet. Inside, the air buzzed with excitement as 5 children chattered eagerly, their faces pressed against the windows, gazing out at the passing scenery. "Look at those trees," exclaimed Jeremy, his dark eyes wide with wonder as they passed through a dense forest. Melinda, sitting beside him, nodded in agreement, her curly hair bouncing with each bump in the road. "It's so different from the city," she remarked, a smile lighting up her freckled face. In the seat behind them, Josh leaned forward, his gaze fixed on the map spread out on his lap. "We're almost there," he announced, pointing to a small dot labeled Pasquet in the center of the map. Nellie, sitting next to Josh, let out a sigh of relief. "Finally," she exclaimed, her blonde hair falling in front of her blue eyes. "I can't wait to see what this town is like." At the front of the bus, Miss Farnsworth, their music teacher and chaperone for the trip, glanced back at the children with a smile. "We're almost there, everyone," she called out. "Get ready for a week of music and fun." As the bus rounded a bend in the road, Pasquet came into view, a picturesque town nestled among the rolling hills. The children gasped in awe at the sight, their excitement reaching a fever pitch. "We're here," cried Jolene, the youngest of the group, her voice filled with excitement. The small town of Pasquet awaited them, promising a week of adventure and discovery. As the yellow school bus rolled into Pasquet, the atmosphere of enthusiasm was tinged with a hint of unease. The children peered out of the windows, their anticipation dampened by the eerie sight before them. The usually lively town appeared deserted, its streets devoid of vitality. "What's going on?" Jeremy murmured, his brow furrowed in confusion. Melinda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes scanning the empty streets. "It's like a ghost town," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the engine. Josh leaned forward, his gaze fixed on the deserted buildings lining the road. "Maybe everyone's on vacation," he suggested, though doubt lingered in his voice. Nellie shook her head, her expression troubled. "I don't think so," she said softly. "Something feels off." Miss Farnsworth, sensing the children's unease, turned to face them with a reassuring smile. "It's probably nothing to worry about," she said, though her own voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. But as the bus came to a stop in front of Oak Ridge Charter School, the sense of foreboding only grew stronger. The silence that greeted them was deafening, broken only by the distant sound of rustling leaves. Jolene, clutching her backpack tightly, looked up at Miss Farnsworth with wide eyes. "Where is everyone?" she asked, her voice trembling. Miss Farnsworth's smile faltered slightly as she scanned the deserted streets. "I'm not sure," she admitted, her tone grave. "But we'll stick together and figure it out." Jeremy wrinkled his nose as he caught a faint whiff of something burning in the air, the scent lingering ominously around them. He glanced at his friends, a crease forming between his brows. "Do you guys smell that?" he asked, his voice low with concern. Melinda nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of movement. "It smells like smoke," she remarked, her voice barely above a whisper. "But where's it coming from?" Josh followed Melinda's gaze, his eyes narrowing as he spotted a thick column of smoke rising from the outskirts of the town. "Over there," he said, pointing towards the source. "Looks like there's a fire." Nellie's heart skipped a beat as she squinted at the distant plume, her mind racing with questions. But why would there be a fire? She wondered aloud, her voice tinged with apprehension. Jolene clung to Miss Farnsworth's hand, her eyes wide with fear. "Should we go check it out?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Miss Farnsworth hesitated, her gaze shifting between the children and the distant smoke. "I'm not sure," she admitted, her voice filled with concern. "But it might be related to the musical activities we're here for, so we should investigate." As they ventured closer to the woods where the smoke seemed to be coming from, faint echoes of chanting reached their ears, sending shivers down their spines. "Did you guys hear that?" Jeremy whispered, his eyes darting nervously towards the trees. The others nodded, their faces pale with apprehension. With a shared glance, they pressed on towards the source of the eerie sounds, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and curiosity. As they approached the source of the chanting, its volume increased, resonating through the dense forest. Peering cautiously from behind bushes, they were met with a sight that froze them in place. Approximately 40 children encircled a towering structure crafted from woven branches and twigs, resembling a colossal effigy. Flames flickered around its base, casting eerie shadows upon the chanting mob. It was a Wicker Man, a grotesque creation that loomed over the clearing like a silent sentinel. The children's movements were frenzied as they danced and chanted around the towering structure. Their half-naked bodies were adorned with symbols painted in dark red, resembling dried blood that covered every inch of exposed skin. Their faces contorted with wild abandon, their eyes wide and vacant as they gazed upon the towering Wicker Man. With every step and sway of their bodies, the symbols seemed to come alive, pulsating with an unsettling energy. Their voices rose in unison, mingling with the crackle of the flames and the rustle of the trees, creating a cacophony of sound that echoed through the clearing. The children screamed and chanted with fervor, their voices carrying an otherworldly resonance. Despite their seemingly trance-like state, there was an undeniable sense of purpose in their movements, as if they were driven by forces beyond their control. Miss Farnsworth's grip tightened on Jolene's hand as they observed the unsettling scene. She whispered urgently for the group to retreat slowly, but their attention remained fixed on the mesmerizing display before them. Miss Farnsworth's heart pounded in her chest as she surveyed the scene before her, her voice barely a whisper, as she urged the children to move back slowly. Fear gripped her like icy fingers, tightening with each passing moment. "Come on, kids," she murmured, her eyes darting nervously between the chanting children and the looming figure of the Wicker Man. "We need to get out of here." But as she glanced back, Her heart sank. Only Jolene, the youngest of the group, seemed to be listening to her. The others stood frozen in place, their eyes wide with terror, unable to tear themselves away from the mesmerizing spectacle unfolding before them. Jeremy, Melinda, Josh, Nellie, Miss Farnsworth whispered urgently, her voice tinged with desperation. "We have to go. Now." But her words seemed to fall on deaf ears as the children remained rooted to the spot, their gazes locked on the eerie ritual unfolding before them. Panic surged through Miss Farnsworth. "Please," she pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. "We need to stick together. We need to get out of here before it's too late." With a final, desperate glance at the children, Miss Farnsworth, her fingers intertwined with Jolene's, began to edge backwards, praying that the others would snap out of their trance and follow. Her heart raced as she watched in horror as her students, seemingly entranced by the eerie ritual unfolding before them, rose to their feet and began to chant along with the other children. A wave of fear washed over her as she realized they were no longer under her control, their minds consumed by some unseen force. Their voices melded with the haunting melody of the ritual, their faces twisted in a trance-like fervor. Jeremy's eyes, once bright with curiosity, now gleamed with an unsettling intensity as he joined the others in their chant. And Nellie, usually so full of laughter and light, now stood among the chanting children with a vacant expression, her features cast in shadow by the flickering torchlight. Josh's normally calm demeanor had been replaced by a frenzied energy, his gaze fixed on the towering figure of the Wicker Man with an unsettling reverence. Melinda's face was twisted with a fierce passion, her voice rising above the rest as she pointed an accusatory finger towards Miss Farnsworth. Dread surged through her as she felt the weight of their accusing stares, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly fervor. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, she knew they were beyond saving. Desperate to protect Jolene, the only one still tethered to reality, Miss Farnsworth clutched her hand tightly and broke into a sprint, her heart pounding in her chest as they raced through the darkness, the distant echoes of chanting growing fainter with each passing moment. Branches whipped at their faces, and their feet stumbled over roots and rocks as they fled deeper into the woods. The air was thick with the scent of pine and fear. As they ran, her mind raced with questions, her thoughts consumed by the sinister forces at play in the small town of Pasquet. Miss Farnsworth's breath came in ragged gasps as she and Jolene fled deeper into the woods, their hearts pounding in their chests, the realization of their dire situation sinking in with each passing moment. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a chilling sight that froze them in their tracks. Before them lay a gaping hole dug into the earth, surrounded by mounds of freshly turned soil. Miss Farnsworth's eyes widened in horror as she realized what lay within the pit. The remains of the adults from Pasquet town lay strewn haphazardly within the pit, a macabre tableau of death and decay. Some lay untouched, their features frozen in eternal agony, while others bore the unmistakable marks of scavengers, their bones polished to a gleaming ivory by the relentless jaws of nature's cleaners. their bodies twisted in unnatural positions. Their lifeless eyes, now devoid of the spark of vitality, stared up at the darkened sky with a haunting emptiness, as if silently pleading for release from their torment. Each gaze seemed to bore into the very soul of any who dared to look upon them, carrying with it the weight of untold suffering and despair. Jolene gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as she recoiled from the gruesome sight. What happened here?" she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Miss Farnsworth could offer no answer, and the distant echoes of chanting and screaming grew louder and closer.
If you've been captivated by the magic of this audiobook, here's how you can immerse yourself even further and support the creation of more enthralling tales for your enjoyment. Unlock the ultimate listening journey with a yearly subscription on PageTunes.com. No interruptions, ad-free, and exclusive access to the full library of audiobooks and ebooks. Download and enjoy captivating stories offline, anytime, anywhere. Whether through subscription or individual purchases, you play a vital role in bringing more enchanting stories to life. Explore the merch store. From cozy hoodies to stylish mugs and much more, every purchase directly contributes to crafting more thrilling tales for your pleasure. Thank you, and happy listening.